Ptolus has a ton of non-player characters, or NPCs, that your players are going to need to interact with. And I just wanted to give you some tips and tricks on how to help those NPCs survive contact with your characters. Now, I'm going to be talking about some Ptolus specific stuff, but honestly, this is generic enough advice for any narrator running any setting on just ways to keep NPCs alive whenever you don't want your characters just going Murder-Hobo. So, number one, just tell your people at the start of the campaign. And what I mean, first, this might feel a little bit metagamey, but in a Ptolus campaign setting, it's no more metagaming than telling your players you need to design characters that are going to be playing in a fully urban campaign. So simply telling your players that many of the NPCs they meet are going to be important to be kept alive is always a good idea. Ptolus is completely full of interesting people, and people a lot of times are going to be ones that the NPCs or the PCs need to keep alive because they need knowledge, they need supplies, and they might even need help from them at some point. So just start the campaign letting your players know that it's important not to just go around killing everybody that they don't like. Number two, there are consequences to killing NPCs. Ptolus, and probably every setting, has laws, and murder is definitely punishable by death. Now, obviously, self-defense is a different thing, of course, but honestly, to the city watch, that always isn't going to be immediately apparent. So any fighting in the streets of the city is going to cause problems. And honestly, even if the PCs manage to get away with killing somebody, that doesn't mean that those people just exist in a vacuum, okay? That NPC has family, friends, and probably allies who are going to come after the PCs. So an example of that would be like if you attacked a Balakazar associate, the big crime family, that could easily be met with Vi assassins playing the PCs a visit in their sleep. If you did something like kill Rastor or Myreth, then you're going to incite the ire of almost every Delver in the city, and you're not going to live very long after that. So just let your players know that Ptolus is not the campaign to go Murder-Hobo. And again, depending on your campaign setting, that's probably a good idea to tell them too. Number three, ask players to create homebrew NPCs for you. Again, Ptolus has hundreds of NPCs already created for you. It is one of the most rich and fleshed out settings in that area. But having your players contribute some extra bodies is never a bad idea. Anyone your players create is automatically going to have a special place in their hearts, and the City by the Spire certainly has more room for tons of extra people. Now, my player characters have created entire locations in addition to NPCs. We actually needed a real estate lender for Barash, the big dragonborn fighter, to purchase property, so we made up Grand Spire Holdings. The owner is Navre Orifur, this stately elf. And so, honestly, this is one thing that you can do. Your characters are going to be much less likely to kill the person that they create, right? It's just going to be, they're going to be a little bit more special to them than just the average Joe Schmo NPC wearing a wet red shirt walking down the street. Also, check out our homebrew section. I have a link to Grand Spire Holdings down below, so if you need a real estate lender for some reason, then we've got a picture of the building, picture of the people, and some information about there. Something even cooler than that is Barash himself started out as a completely random NPC. Whenever my characters first encountered Barash, he was actually just a flavorful NPC that I had standing in line to meet with Brother Fabitor to get healed. I just thought, hey, it'd be really cool to have a silver dragonborn fighter that was injured coming in to get healed. And he was just a throwaway NPC I just mentioned in passing. And for some reason, our main character, Vo, took a liking to him and cleaned his armor for free. And then later, that character was actually fully fleshed out and developed into a full player character. So you never know when your characters and your players are going to latch on to one of these NPCs. And from our instance, they actually took him from NPC to full player character who now has a person playing him and everything now. So check out the homebrew section. I'm going to put a link in down. I just added a super cool new feature to the website. It is actually a homebrew submission form, meaning if you have any homebrew content that you want to get to me so that I can share it on the website, go to the link below. It's like homebrew submission form. You fill out a little bit of stuff. You can tell me where you want it to show up and all that kind of stuff so that I know the best place to place this for you to make sure that the content shows up in the right location. All right, moving on to our next point. NPCs have knowledge and secrets. Every person in the Ptolus book has at least some knowledge to offer. Now, often this knowledge and secrets are even more important than gold. Finnick from the Hunger Games has an awesome line. I absolutely love this. And he simply said, "I haven't dealt in anything as common as money in years." So let your PCs get a taste of that knowledge and those secrets. And it's gonna be like a drug. They're gonna want more and more of those knowledge tidbits and those little secret things that nobody maybe else knows about or just a few do. And because the person, that NPC, is providing them with that information, well, then they're going to ensure that that drug is going to be kept coming from the dealer of that drug. So remember that those NPCs can have knowledge and secrets that your player characters need, or maybe they just want funny little juicy tidbits to kick in. Next is that NPCs also provide services. As I mentioned before, if you killed Rastor or Myreth, another great NPC is Iltumar, who's at the Bull and Bear Armory. This is another example of a NPC that my characters just latched onto, absolutely loved, even started training him. But anyway, if you kill any of those major staple NPCs or any of the other dozens of vendors in Ptolus, it's not just going to get the characters in trouble, but it's also going to prevent them from gaining services that they need on a regular basis. The whole point of D&D, Pathfinder, whatever RPG you're playing, is that this is an open world, right? So if they want to walk in and stab the shopkeeper, they can. But if you kill the guy that buys the weapons in the city, one, everybody's going to hate you, and two, you're not going to be able to sell your weapons anymore. So remind them that those NPCs provide services, don't just kill them. The next point is there is always a bigger fish. Now, this is on par with consequences above, but as your player characters gain experience and levels and magic items and money, they start to feel a little bit too powerful. And honestly, a lot of times what happens is they might just adopt a might makes right mentality, right? It is a good thing to remind them that in Ptolus, there are 20th level characters walking, or honestly more likely teleporting around. Now, somebody might ask, how can a first level expert, not one of these 20th level characters, ever possibly defeat a 10th level fighter? Well, there's two things: leverage and cost. So a second level thief who just cut a PC's purse might seem like an easy kill to your powerful group, but once they see the long finger crest on the cloak of that rogue, it would be a very good idea for your PCs to stop and think if it's worth the cost to apprehend or even kill that NPC, because there's an organization that person is attached to that if they go too far, there's going to be repercussions for it. Now, no matter how much power your characters attain, they live in a world where somebody bigger and better than them is always just a sending spell away. All right, the City Watch members, yeah, you're right, they can't stand just toe-to-toe with the PCs. But when there's 100 of them, plus a few Gold Shield wizards, they're gonna get brought down. And then, honestly, even if they escape, there are divination spells that will eventually track down the PCs and unalive them. Next is one-on-one time. Have NPCs actually encounter your characters individually and not all together, meaning have the PCs be alone in a meeting with an NPC. This is going to make your players a lot less arrogant and a lot less likely to start a fight. And honestly, this is another great argument for play-by-post games. I've got a link below if you want to watch the video or read my article about those. What you can do with a PvP post here, or PvP game, is that you could run some of these solo interactions in the play-by-post format away from the table. That allows you to have those one-on-one sessions with an NPC and a PC, or even two PCs, but I'm talking about NPCs in this video. Have that one-on-one interaction time with them where it's not going to steal focus from everybody else at the table at that time, because not everybody wants to sit around and watch one player character talk to just the DM, right? This is a great way you can do play-by-post and just have it be one of those offshoots where they just have a conversation. And again, many times the players are going to be more likely to just talk things out with that NPC if they're just standing alone. Next is make the NPC the actual objective. In many MMORPGs and other games, there are NPCs that you simply cannot kill because they're important to the story. Now, thankfully, RPGs aren't the same way. That's one of the things that we love about them. But if your players know that this NPC is the only person who has what they need, the only person that knows what they need, etc., then they're not going to kill that person immediately. On top of that, as opposed to just a random person, having a patron or a sponsor NPC is another great way to decrease mortality. When a person is constantly bringing the group new adventure hooks and new experiences, new options, then their value just skyrockets for the player characters. One of my favorite things for my next point here is milestone experience points over standard experience. Milestone experience has been my preferred way to run campaigns for a very long time now. So the simple gist of this is, rather than just killing a monster or NPC and getting experience based on that creature's challenge rating, we use what I'll just call story XP, or story experience points. That means I simply just decide when the characters level up. Now, I know if you're a player watching this, or maybe even some narrators, you're going to say that freaks out, you hate that, and some people just don't like the ambiguous nature of this system. But the biggest way that I would sell this is simply to explain that the benefits are included. You'll be rewarded for role-playing in addition to combat. It's a lot harder to assign an experience point total to role-playing with an NPC than, just killing a monster that has a challenge rating and this is your level, right? That's one of the biggest reasons that I like story XP. Plus, there's a lot of times that they'll go through 100 fights and it didn't mean anything really. They didn't learn anything new. There wasn't any really growth, so it doesn't make sense to me to give them experience for that. Whereas they might go and have one huge social interaction and it's incredibly beneficial, it's incredibly powerful, it's really moving as part of the story, so I want to reward those things. Again, when the players don't see every NPC as just a bag of experience points to be beaten open to get the candy inside, they're going to be more likely to use dialogue rather than their spells and their swords. I mentioned this once before, but I'm going to come back to it as a full point. You cannot always hide from divination. I know there's certain spells and magic items, but the point here is, like I said before, powerful people can scry the PCs and find them almost anywhere they hide. Yes, maybe those magic items block it, but again, there's 20th level characters in Ptolus, and depending on your campaign, there might be people beyond that level. There's always a bigger fish. They will probably find a way to punch through those divinations. So, introduce the concept of divination magic early in the game. One of my favorite ways that I did this was I mentioned a location called the Games House in Old Town. And during something that they do called the Mage Games, there are tons of people that scry that location. This was exactly how I did it, and it would be a super easy introduction for you to give your player characters the idea that people might be watching around the city magically at any given time, right? Everybody thinks about the assassin on the rooftop or the person blended in that's pretending to be a beggar that's watching them. But in D&D and in RPGs here, there is obviously divination magic where they could be spied on at any time. Even if they're taking precautions, there might be ways around that. So it's just something to let your characters know. Again, there's repercussions to their actions, and you never know who might be watching. The next idea is simply doing an escorting or babysitting mission. Again, this is similar to making the NPC the objective, but with the twist that the person's survival directly impacts the PC's getting whatever they want, whether that's paid, experience points, the secret they need, whatever. There are tons of dangers in Ptolus, so this could honestly be a reoccurring event, meaning you could do this same mission multiple different times with multiple different NPCs and keep it still feeling fresh. There might be some rich and powerful person that constantly needs an escort wherever they go, so now your players have to keep that person alive or they risk losing the reward, and honestly, there's a good chance that if they fail at that task, it's not just that they lose experience or lose money, but again, there could absolutely be a consequence to that. Next is dragons love flattery, and so do the players. Your player characters are less likely to kill somebody who flatters them. Again, I'm going to use Iltamar at the Bull and Bear Armory as just a great example of this. He loves delvers, or adventurers, and he is going to fawn all over anybody who appears to be somebody of importance. Like I said before, my player characters fell in love with him pretty quickly, and he worked out to be a great recurring character. They even started training him to fight, and at one point they actually took him down into the sewers to do a rat tail collecting mission because he was so excited to learn to be a delver, and he was constantly asking them for information about their exploits and the things that they had done. So have some NPCs adore and revere your PCs. Again, I did another video that deals with just character, fame, infamy, and reputation, which delves into this deeper, so click the link below, check that out. But honestly, as your characters do more things in the city, as they become wealthier, as they affect events in the world, people are going to take notice of them. And some of that will be bad attention from the bad folks they like to stop, but a lot of that is going to be good. Let your players feel that impact that they've had on the world. Let people recognize them. Let people celebrate them. And I know those have been some of the most exciting moments and just fun moments for my players as we've thrown parties to celebrate the things that they have accomplished, as people on the street have recognized them, as NPCs that they were in interaction with said, "Holy cow, I know who you are." They always love that. So let me know in the comments down below or over on our Ptolus specific Discord, how do you prevent murder hobos in your campaign? If you would, share your thoughts here. We have a Ptolus specific Discord if you're interested in Ptolus. Obviously, I hope so if you're watching this video. And if you want to talk more about Ptolus with other Ptolus narrators, jump on there. Again, I do have a Patreon account live now. Again, link to that below. I'm not releasing any exclusive Patreon content yet. But if you just feel like helping me out and making more content, then I'm honestly pretty sure that your roll 20s or you're going to roll even more 20s. So also, one of the things I am doing as a benefit is the scripts for these videos. I'm making those available to my Patreons before I actually make the video. I've gotten some great feedback, and it's kind of a little bonus for those folks. So that's something I can do right now. One of the things I have to be careful of is I cannot create Ptolus specific content and put it behind any kind of a paywall. That's something I'm being very cautious about. I do not want to upset Monty Cook Games because they are awesome and they have been so supportive. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the tolling bell, and all that other stuff you've watched a YouTube video before. But until next time, stay out of the shadow of the spire.